A hand rises across the coffee shop, so you wave back. Big wave, full elbow. The stranger looks through you and hugs the person standing behind your chair. Your hand changes jobs halfway down and starts adjusting hair that never needed adjusting. And then you laugh. Nothing was funny. No joke got told. A man successfully greeted his friend, and your nervous system responded like Netflix had just dropped a special. That little laugh feels like your brain malfunctioning at the exact moment you need to look competent. But it might be doing the opposite. Why do we laugh when we're embarrassed? The laugh solves two problems at once. Inside your body, it releases tension. Between bodies, it broadcasts something before your conscious mind can draft a statement. I saw the mistake. I'm not dangerous, and we can all survive this. Embarrassment is strange because it needs an audience even when that audience exists only in your head. Spill soup alone and you feel annoyed. Spill soup during a first date and suddenly the spoon has exposed your entire bloodline. Same soup, new social stakes. The audience isn't a simple on-off switch either. 2 studies published in 2023 found people reported the most embarrassment in front of strangers, less in front of casual friends, and the least in front of close friends, and greater fear of negative judgment helped explain the rise, along with feeling less socially secure around the observer. Embarrassment, apparently, keeps a guest list. Psychologists call embarrassment a self-conscious emotion. A branch snapping in the dark can trigger fear. Milk that smells like a biological weapons program can trigger disgust. But embarrassment needs a model of yourself inside somebody else's mind, and it asks one very specific question. What do they think of me now? Babies don't arrive asking that question in its full adult form. For a while, a mirror is just a fascinating roommate who copies everything, and then during the second year of life, many children start recognizing their reflection as themselves. Researchers test this by secretly placing a mark on a child's face. A child who sees the mark in the mirror and reaches toward their own forehead has made a serious cognitive upgrade, because that body in there is me. Michael Lewis and his colleagues found that embarrassment tracked with this emerging self-recognition, while ordinary wariness did not. Children who recognized themselves were more likely to show embarrassed behavior when exposed, praised, or made the center of attention, and they might smile, turn away, or hide the face they'd only just identified. None of this means the mirror manufactures embarrassment, and children don't all develop on one schedule, but the connection is useful. Feeling embarrassed takes more than fearing an observer. It takes some sense that the observer is seeing you, the same you that can now become an object of attention and judgment. Congratulations on discovering yourself. Cringe has entered the building. That question is expensive to run. Human brains devote a shocking amount of effort to tracking reputation, alliances, attention, and belonging, which makes sense for an animal whose ancestors relied on other people for food, defense, childcare, knowledge, and the pleasant luxury of not freezing alone beside a bush. A damaged reputation wasn't the same as a damaged knee, but it wasn't decorative either. The trigger doesn't even have to be immoral. You can get embarrassed from receiving too much praise, forgetting a familiar name, walking into a glass door, having your voice crack, or saying "you too" when an airport employee tells you to have a safe flight. No victim, no sin, just a tiny collision between the person you meant to present and the creature everybody just witnessed. Your body reacts before your inner lawyer finishes objecting. Psychologist Dacher Keltner mapped a common sequence. The gaze turns away, the lips try to suppress a smile, a smile leaks through anyway, the head dips or turns, and sometimes a hand touches the face, as though the face just became an unreliable employee requiring immediate supervision. This whole thing unfolds fast, with the recognizable pattern appearing within about 5 seconds in Keltner's work, though face touching showed up only around a quarter of the time, so there's no single sacred gesture. Culture and situation change the performance too. A tongue bite can signal embarrassment in parts of Asia and mean almost nothing to an American observer, but the broad pattern still reads clearly. Reduced eye contact, lowered posture, a restrained smile, visible discomfort. That's not the posture of somebody challenging the room. It's almost aggressively unaggressive. The laugh after a harmless blunder isn't proof you failed to control your embarrassment. It can be part of the equipment that repairs the social damage. For a group-living primate, mistakes create ambiguity. Did you break the rule because you don't know it? Because you don't respect it? Because you're hostile? Or because your sleeve caught the wine glass and gravity remains undefeated? Other people can't inspect your intentions. They only get your behavior. A defiant stare after a mistake says one thing. A lowered head, an awkward smile, a quick apology, and a little laugh say another. The display admits a rule or expectation existed, shows that you noticed the breach, lowers the temperature, and gives everyone permission to treat the event as small. That one undignified noise is doing several jobs. It marks the moment as non-threatening. It shows emotional awareness. It invites shared amusement, which turns "you are judging me" into "we are reacting together." Most cleverly, it lets you acknowledge the mistake without delivering a six-part apology for waving at the wrong mammal. Your ancestors never sat beside the fire comparing reputation management strategies on a cave wall spreadsheet. Natural selection can favor responses that tend to produce useful social outcomes without handing the animal a user manual. The urge arrives first, the explanation limps in later wearing one sandal. There's an obvious objection here. Maybe nervous laughter is just pressure escaping. Embarrassment raises arousal, the moment resolves, and laughter helps the body come down. No social signal required. That may be part of it. Laughter can regulate emotion, interrupt tension, and give the laugher a burst of relief, and people sometimes laugh alone after a near miss or during experiences far too intense to be amusing. One behavior can have several causes, and nervous laughter is a broad label pasted over different events. But relief alone can't explain why the reaction is so sensitive to audiences, why embarrassment has a recognizable display, or why observers change their judgment based on the response. A laugh does something inside the body. It also does something between bodies. In 2012, Matthew Feinberg, Rob Willer, and Dacher Keltner published 5 studies on embarrassment as a social signal. People more prone to embarrassment reported more pro-social tendencies and, in one task, behaved more generously, and observers saw visibly embarrassed people as more pro-social and less antisocial than people who showed pride or stayed emotionally neutral. They were more willing to trust them, share resources with them, and spend time with them. That doesn't mean blushing turns someone into a saint. The studies show a pattern in perception and behavior, not a moral X-ray. A skilled manipulator can perform humility, and a kind person can freeze and look blank. Signals are useful because they correlate with hidden qualities often enough to influence us, not because they're impossible to fake. Still, the deeper logic holds up. Embarrassment feels terrible to the person experiencing it, yet its visible discomfort can reassure everybody else because the pain is part of the message. An entirely relaxed rule breaker is unsettling. A flustered rule breaker looks like somebody whose social alarm system works. Laughter then adds a second message on top. Yes, the alarm works, but no, we don't need the village council. In 2026, Selen Gerksel of Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, Uwe Caesar of Cornell, and Jonathan Berman of London Business School published 6 pre-registered studies covering 3,204 participants. People judged characters who committed social blunders and then reacted either with embarrassment or by laughing at themselves. When the mistake was harmless, the self-lavers came out judged as warmer, more competent, and more authentic, though not more moral. And that distinction matters. The laugh didn't say, "I am a better human." It said, "I understand the size of this event." Observers often saw strong embarrassment as too much for a tiny offense. Someone still dying inside 5 minutes after waving at the wrong stranger looked less emotionally calibrated than someone who laughed and moved on. Self-directed amusement showed awareness without collapse, and it saved everyone nearby from assembling a rescue team around a fallen teaspoon. The effect flips completely when another person gets hurt. Laugh after bumping a harmlessly empty glass and you look relaxed. Laugh after knocking someone down and you look callous. As harm increases, embarrassment and remorse become the better signals because the social question changes. People stop asking, "Can this person handle being awkward?" and start asking, "Does this person care what happened to someone else?" So the useful signal was never laughter by itself. It's a response matched to the event. A harmless error calls for a laugh that shrinks the tension. Real harm calls for concern, apology, and repair to take the microphone. The same "ha" that reads as warmth in one room can read as contempt in another, which is exactly why nervous laughter can betray you at funerals, during bad news, or when someone's angry. Your body may be trying to regulate unbearable tension or signal non-aggression, but the observer might hear pleasure or disrespect instead. Evolution never installed subtitles. This machinery is much older than embarrassment about sending a screenshot to the person shown in the screenshot. In a 2009 study, Marina Davila-Ross and colleagues recorded tickle-induced vocalizations from young orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and humans, and the acoustic relationships matched the known evolutionary family tree. Human laughter and great ape play vocalizations appeared to share deep ancestry, likely reaching back 10 to 16 million years. An ape's play pant isn't a confession that it replied to the wrong group chat. It happens during rough and tumble play and helps frame biting, chasing, and wrestling as play rather than attack. Open mouth, rapid breath, no emergency, the body saying, "These movements look dangerous, but this interaction is safe." That's a parallel, not proof that embarrassed laughter descended directly from one ape gesture, since soft tissue and social noises don't fossilize kindly. But the evidence supports continuity in laughter, and from there, theory has to explain how humans expanded an old play signal into courtship, politeness, ridicule, relief, bonding, and the little chuckle produced when the waiter says, "Enjoy your meal," and you reply, "Thanks, you too." The reuse still makes sense. A sound already linked to play and non-threat can get recruited when another kind of ambiguity needs diffusing. In play, the message is that bite was not an attack. After a blunder, it becomes that breach was not defiance. Same ancient instrument, weird new song. Status changes how well the song plays. In the famous 1966 pratfall experiment, Elliot Aronson, Ben Willerman, and Joanne Floyd found that a highly competent person became more likable after an embarrassing blunder, while a more average person got no such boost. Later work shows the effect shifts with context, so it's not a fixed law of human nature, but the logic behind it holds. A small mistake can soften perfection, though it can't create competence out of smoke. That's why a respected professor can drop the projector remote, laugh, and come across as more human. But if that same professor has spent 40 minutes failing to find the correct slide, the next dropped object stops reading as charming vulnerability and starts reading as another data point. Laughing at yourself can also work as a tiny status move. Total collapse tells the room its judgment controls you. Blank indifference tells the room it doesn't matter at all. A proportionate laugh lands between the two, acknowledging the audience without surrendering your whole identity to it. You accept the bruise to your image, then decline to build a house there. Most of us are terrible at estimating how large that bruise actually looks. Thomas Gilovich, Victoria Medvec, and Kenneth Savitsky called this the spotlight effect. In one set of studies, participants wearing an embarrassing Barry Manilow t-shirt overestimated how many people noticed or remembered it. And in group discussions, people also overestimated how prominent their own good and bad comments had been. The reason is brutally simple. You have front row seats to yourself. You feel the heat in your face, hear the crack in your voice, replay the wrong name in surround sound, and assume everyone else got the same theatrical release, when really they were attending private screenings of their own problems. Your embarrassed laugh often recognizes that before your thoughts do. It compresses the event. Yes, that happened. Yes, you saw it. No, this will not become my final form. Modern life keeps inventing environments that confuse this whole system. A prehistoric mistake happened in a shared place, among people who could see your face and your response. Stumble over a sleeping hunter, and the offended party could watch you recoil, hear the appeasing sound, and decide whether the mammoth committee needed to meet. Now a mistake can happen in front of an audience of 400 in an email thread. Your body launches the old repair sequence anyway. Gaze away, smile, little laugh. The laptop just sits there, a silver rectangle with no known capacity for mercy. Nobody hears your tone, nobody sees the head dip, and the message stays there at 2:13 a.m. Perfectly spelled except for the part where it went to the entire company. That's the evolutionary mismatch. The response was shaped for fast, embodied negotiation inside relationships, and the modern environment hands it invisible audiences, delayed reactions, stripped away tone, searchable archives, and strangers who can replay a 7-second failure until the sun burns out. The old system expects feedback. Someone smiles back, someone says you're fine, the group laughs with you, and the danger passes. Online, silence offers no such ending, so your brain keeps refreshing the social threat because the digital cave has no face, no posture, no smell, no reassuring grunt, just 3 dots that appear, vanish, and remove 6 months from your life. The mismatch runs the other direction too. A laugh designed to look harmless in a room can look smug in text. Sorry, haha, might sound warm to the sender and dismissive to the receiver, since a reaction that once traveled with eyes, voice, timing, and posture gets reduced to 3 letters wearing no pants, and those 3 letters are still trying to work. A 2025 analysis of written laughter in Chinese WeChat conversations found that haha performed different social jobs depending on where it landed in a message. At the beginning, it could soften disagreement. At the end, it could manage a failure or misconduct. Standing alone, it communicated little more than minimal engagement. Same laugh, different address. Text didn't kill the social signal, it just removed most of the evidence and made the reader reconstruct the animal from 3 footprints. This helps explain why an embarrassing moment can feel physically enormous, even when the stakes are tiny. Your social alarm was built in a world where relationships stuck around, audiences overlapped, and anonymous exits barely existed. Today you can mispronounce a name on a video call with people you'll never meet again, and your body still prepares to repair the tribe. That doesn't make the reaction irrational. It makes it calibrated to an older communication system. The laugh is trying to close a loop, and modern media often leave that loop spinning. None of this means every mistake needs to become a comedy routine. Forced self-mockery can turn into its own kind of panic, especially when it invites other people to keep punching the same bruise. Some people laugh, some blush, some apologize, some briefly leave their bodies and study the ceiling. And culture, temperament, social anxiety, power, and the severity of the mistake all shape the response. The real test isn't, did I laugh? It's what did my response communicate here? Did it show that I noticed? Did it match the amount of harm? Did it help reopen contact? For a harmless slip, warmth and proportion do more work than self-punishment. For actual harm, the ancient chuckle needs to step aside while repair gets concrete. Your brain isn't laughing because humiliation is secretly delightful. It's trying to convert exposure into affiliation, taking the moment when everybody could stand apart and offering a smaller, safer interpretation instead. We are still together, and this clumsy animal knows exactly what just happened. That's why the laugh can arrive before you choose it. It's older than your explanation, faster than your dignity, and deeply invested in keeping other humans near you. Annoying, yes, also rather tender. Back in the coffee shop, your hand finishes its fraudulent hair adjustment. You laugh. The stranger smiles back because they understand nobody files charges, and the social fabric holds around one tiny tear while 3 minutes later, that same stranger starts worrying about something embarrassing they once did. The sound you wanted to suppress was never proof that you were broken. It was a small peace offering from an animal that has survived by making mistakes in public and staying welcome by the fire. When you embarrass yourself, do you laugh, apologize, or pretend the whole thing happened in a different universe? Put your answer in the comments. If you want to keep understanding why your brain and body do things that make no sense in the modern world, subscribe. We've got a lot more of this coming.